All right. Let's change this to scene one. Let's get it, boys. Alrighty. You guys read the title of the stream. We're talking about chapter 366 today. And yeah, the chapter also dropped today too, which was crazy. Usually it drops on Sundays, but I guess something happened where it came out today. But, bro, this chapter, this chapter is actually really good. I really like this chapter for a lot of different reasons. I know this chapter, when it comes to the community and stuff like that, you already know how My Hero Academia fandom is. Half of them hate it and half of them really like it. And there's like a middle between, with some people both hating it and liking it at the same time. And I personally really enjoy this chapter, and I really, really like this chapter a lot. For a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, I enjoyed the Mirio stuff, which we'll get into. I enjoyed the beginning of it. The beginning was very important, which we'll get into really quickly. Really soon. And the ending. The ending was just a massive amount of hype, and of course, we have to talk about it. Of course, today's a Monday stream. Usually I stream on Tuesdays and stuff like that, but I had time today. I have time today to stream, literally the day of the chapter, surprisingly. But yeah, let's get into chapter 366. A lot of things went down in here. We have to go over it, and we have to review the chapter and everything with it, and a bunch of theories and all of that stuff. There's a bunch of stuff I want to touch upon with this chapter, so let's get into it. So the chapter begins practically where we left off on the last chapter, where I believe it was like Shigaraki forming a bunch of like his family members and basically a bunch of the people that weren't there, well, that were there but that could have saved him but didn't save him, right? And we know how in the last chapter he was getting really pissed off at the fact that Best Genius and all of the heroes there were trying to save Bakugo, even though Shigaraki, or Shig for one, whatever you want to call him right now, had effectively killed him. Right? He successfully did the job. He did what he set out to do, and was to break Bakugo and him before Deku arrives. So that way, when Deku comes, he can see that he failed in his mission to stop Shigaraki, and that he let another one of his friends down, or another one of these heroes down, and it's his fault. And he was trying to make sure he died, and he successfully did it. He successfully killed Bakugo a couple chapters ago already, and they're trying to bring him back. So after all of this frustration and stuff like that, we start off the chapter with his body effectively changing. It's adapting. He's coming down with a new form. I mean, it sounds like he's sick or something, but he's changing. He's getting a new form. And this is very interesting because apparently with like the whole Quirk Doomsday theory and stuff like that, and what's going on with Shigaraki and how it relates to Dr. Ujiko's Quirk Doomsday theory and all of that stuff, right? His body is adapting to what's going on physically and mentally within him right now. And this is what Horikoshi, or I guess you could say the narrator for the chapter, the beginning of the chapter, says. And it's quite interesting when we like read this out loud. And I'm going to read it's on the first page, literally the first page. I'm going to read this section because there's a lot of implications and things we can like kind of talk about just from this one page alone, right? So it says, Tomura Shigaraki's body was groping around for its optimal form, right? And that optimal form seemed to be a bloated mass of fingers forever seeking destruction, a form that overwhelmed the world around him and kept everyone at arm's reach. But the heroes bested that form. Thanks to Erasure, he couldn't heal the accumulating damage to his body. That plus the stress and panic afflicting his mind, right? This is very interesting. Gnawed away at his essence, and his body turned into a new ideal form for this particular moment. And that last bit kind of came from the second page, but you know, it's basically a lot of this information we got from the first page. It's like it says a lot, right? Because it shows that Shigaraki is indeed panicking. He is kind of being stressed out by this whole situation at the fact that, hey, he already destroyed Bakugo. He ended Bakugo's life, and now the heroes are trying to bring him back when, like how we discussed in the last chapter, right? Nobody did that for him when he was alive. Well, when he is alive, right? When he was a kid, he was alive. He was wandering the streets all dirty, ragged. Had his family had just died, but the way he looked, the way people kind of, were weirded out by him, they never came to help him. His family didn't help him when they were still there, and the people on the streets that he came across didn't help him until All For One came through and basically, I guess you could say, save him, but not really, right? Manipulated him, groomed him to become who he is now. But it's very interesting because all of that like stress that was built up from like the last chapter going on to this chapter, his body took on a form where it's a lot more defensive, right? And it's kind of a callback, and it is a callback to back when Shigaraki first became Shigaraki, right? When he first ended his whole family, and then All For One found him, and he had this itch going on, and where this itch wouldn't go away even after he had ended his whole family's lives, right? And and what All For One did, and what All For One did to sort of calm him down, to soothe Shigaraki, so that way that itch could go away, or so that way that itch can be controlled, was give him his family's hands, which, it sounds really messed up, but that's what he did. And once Shigaraki put those hands all over his body, he became essentially whole again, right? The itch wasn't there. Of course, he still had the itch. He still had little bits of that itch, because as we see in the future, when at the USJ arc, right, where you see him scratching away at his neck, but the itch is mostly gone. He doesn't really feel it anymore, and he's a lot more calmed down. He's not crying, he's not stressing out or panicking like he was before the hands. But as soon as the hands that All For One gave him got onto his body and was basically essentially holding him, it soothed him, it calmed him down, and he became less, I guess you could say, more of like the crybaby that he was before that, right? And this new form he gains is literally that. It's literally that. It's a defense form from what the chapter states, right? And from what Best Genius states later on, is that this is a defense form. This is like a defense mechanism. His body took the shape. It adapted to what was going on. Not only was he taking a bunch of accumulated damage, right, from Mirko and obviously the other guys and girls that were fighting and trying to prevent him from obviously destroying the whole UA spot that they're at, right, as well as escaping. But on top of that accumulating damage, especially from the Eraser, like violating and not letting him heal anymore, his mental state was being messed up, especially around the last chapter, because of exactly like how I said earlier, that nobody came to save him, but everybody's coming to save Bakugo. So now the hands that are forming around his body, his new form, his new defense mechanism form, his new defense form, is essentially hands, right? Hands wrapping around his body, almost exactly around the same exact spots where his original hands that All For One gave him had wrapped around his body to calm him down, to soothe him, so that way he can, think better, think straight, and control himself a lot more. That's what this new form is, essentially. Of course, the hands are placed a little differently, a little weirdly, because he has more of like a guard, like I guess you could say, sort of, if you guys know Optimus Prime and how he has a shield that goes over his mouth, then it's kind of like that, right? He has like a hand shield covering his mouth, and he also has a hand grabbing the back of his head, as well as hands wrapping around his body to sort of form like this armor and give him this extra shield, this extra layer of protection around his body. But I really like how this is essentially a big callback to all the way back when he had first received the hands for the first time. So this is very interesting, because this could mean that when Deku, or well, he does show up at the end of the chapter, but when Deku and Shigaraki are going at it even more, we could see him further evolve because of what's going to happen. This is a one for all user going against all for one, and his successor, right? So this is going to be a very big moment when his body adapts into a third form, and possibly an even more perfect form to better suit fighting against a one for all user. We know how Shigaraki felt during his battle against Bakugo, right? Where he felt a little sort of like uneasy about what was going on between the him and Bakugo fighting, and how he was like, "Yo, I don't know what's going on here. This guy isn't a one for all user, but I don't feel safe. Like, I don't feel good about what's going on. I feel so uneasy. I'm panicking a little bit and stuff like that. And why am I feeling like this?" And it's because he was reminded of the second user of One for All during that fight. But imagine how when Deku, or when we see Deku and Shigaraki fighting more, besides like what happened at the end of the chapter, we might see a totally new form that is a combination of both offensive and this defensive form. And like the chapter states in the beginning, he's adapting. His body adapted into this new form. So we're going to probably see something even crazier happen. Probably going to see his body adapt to something even crazier when when Deku and Shigaraki really start going at it, besides the end of the chapter. So this is a very interesting form, and I love the sort of callback it is to like back then, and I'm really digging this form. I think this form is definitely one of the cooler forms that a villain has gotten in this series, and I'd say in possibly a couple other series that I could think about, right? Where I feel like some forms are kind of lackluster, but this is definitely a really cool form, especially for it being technically his second form, right? His second form in this all-out war arc. So it's very interesting to say the least, and I'll get into like some more of that in just a bit, but let's continue on with the chapter. So after we see that for this particular moment, his body had changed and formed, and got this new defensive form, Mirko comes in, and Shigaraki just completely obliterates her. He does a smash, his own version of a smash, or it was just a smash in general, right? And sends her flying away. And Mirio and everybody's just like, what just happened, right? I can't believe she just flew away like that. Mirio's in shock. Sun Eater thought that Mirio was going to get murked or something like that, and he got obliterated too, right? Sun Eater got obliterated. Nejiri got obliterated. Not necessarily obliterated, but you know what I mean. Like they're out of action right now because of what just happened. His new form basically changed the game for what was going on. And it's very interesting because when we see all of these heroes basically getting washed by Shigaraki at this moment, you see Mirio is trying his hardest to sort of get his attention on him, but Shigaraki has already acknowledged, and I believe he even acknowledged it like a chapter ago as well, that he's like, you kind of aren't doing anything. Like, I'm not going to get distracted by you anymore because you're nothing. Right? You're not doing nothing to me, and whatever damage output you got is gonna tickle me, right? You're not even the reason why I changed into this new form. Whatever damage you've done to me is nothing compared to what Mirko had done, is nothing compared to what Sun Eater has done, or even what Nejiri has done, or even Best Jeanist and Bakugo, right? That's nothing compared to that. And Mirio is just like, damn, right? I can't do anything. He has a point. And we see how like distraught he is, and when it comes to like a villain, this very powerful villain doesn't even care about him anymore, right? Like at first he kind of cared because he was like, yo, who's this guy, right? I gotta watch out for this guy. But then once Shigaraki, or Shig for one, realized that Mirio isn't anything to him and can't really do nothing to him, it's like, I'm not even gonna give you any time of my day, or my time of my day, right? I don't really care about you. You're nothing to me. Even if like I'm in a heated battle with Deku, or and then you come along to try and punch me, you're not gonna do nothing, right? Your power level is zero compared to me, right? And and I like how Mirio is just like, damn, man, I can't do anything at all. I can't believe that, he's ignoring me to the point where he's just going straight after Best Genius to prevent the resurrection of Bakugo, or to prevent Bakugo from coming back, right? And he can't think of anything. He can't think of anything, and the one person he thinks of is Sir Night Eye, and he's like, "Sir, is this the future that you saw for me?" He's doubting what Sir Night Eye has said to him on his deathbed, where he's like, "You are going to be an amazing hero one day." Where basically Sir Night Eye kind of spoiled it to us, where he was like, "Yeah, Mario's gonna get his quirk back," but it's very cool to see how he thinks about Sir Night Eye, and the one person that he believes in, right? The one person that we saw that Mirio really believes in, really loves and cares for, his mentor, right? Sir Night Eye himself. He's doubting. He's doubting what Sir Night Eye had told him way back from the overhaul arc. And then after that quick little doubt, we get a message, from a telepathic message from Mandalay. And Mandalay's like, "Yo, take down the barrier for at least 2 seconds. We need 2 seconds to hold down the barrier, to take down the barrier, and then we'll bring it right back up," right? And everybody's like, "Why? Why do we need to bring down this barrier?" Best Genius is shitting bricks, because he's like, "Bro, bringing down the barrier for 2 seconds will last an eternity." And because, within those 2 seconds, and how strong Shigaraki is right now, Shigaraki could just bounce, right? He doesn't even need to pay attention to Best Genius. As soon as he notices that those barriers are open, he could just dip. He could possibly even just run through Best Genius, do a quick little hit on Bakugo, and then just bounce, right? Like just to seal the deal that Bakugo is going to die. But that's that's kind of crazy how, like, those 2 seconds for Best Genius is like, bro, I like, that's gonna take everything out of not only me, but like even all the people in here that's already like washed up, right? That's already been washed. And Mirio is there, the one guy who barely has any damage on him, right? The one guy who barely has any damage on him, the one guy that not even the main villain of the series doesn't even care about, is like, "Bro, what can I do? I can't do anything. What am I supposed to do in this moment? I'm the only one. I need to be the one to distract this guy. I'm the only thing I can do it. I need his attention on me." And then he thinks back to Sir Night Eye again, and his famous words of, "A world without smiles and humor has no bright future," right? And he thinks about Sir Night Eye, and how Sir Night Eye always loved to laugh, right? Because that's his motto, right? Without smiles, the world has no bright future. And of course, this is where we see Mirio pull out his zestiest move in the entire series, his zestiest move ever, right? That we've ever seen, where full moon rising tonight, right? Where he's just like, "There's a full moon rising tonight," and that is definitely 100% a callback to the sports festival, the culture festival, where he says the same exact thing, except he's poking his ass out of a bush, right? And he doesn't have his quirk at that moment. So he's doing the same exact thing. And of course, back then it didn't really work, because everybody's just like, "What the hell?" Right? Like, what the hell? Like, you just did that, Ares right there, and then everybody else behind them, that was in Class 1A, was just kind of shocked to see an ass poke out of a bush. So it was hilarious back then for like all the wrong reasons, but here I like how it kind of makes sense, right? It makes sense that Mirio, in this dire situation, has nothing left in his arsenal. He has nothing. He can't do anything. He physically cannot damage him. He physically cannot hold him back, because of, comparatively, right? He's weak. He's really weak against someone like Shigaraki. He can't do nothing. So the best thing he could do is to try and make a stupid joke, or try and make him laugh, keep him distracted because of how confusing and how dire the situation is, right? It's a very crazy situation, and the best thing he could do is try and make him laugh or confuse him long enough where those 2 seconds will fly by in an instant. And that's exactly what he does. He pokes his butt out, and I'm not gonna cap, guys, and major pause, but Horikoshi went dumbo on Mirio's butt. Like that's detailed. like that's firm. But interestingly enough, right? This succeeds. This succeeds, and it does distract Shigaraki to the point where he even laughs because he's like, "What the hell?" Like he's like, "Huh?" Like what? Like what is going on? And he laughs at this very dumb joke. And this is like where a lot of people sort of really hated the chapter, right? And you'll see like, on social media, it's like, "Oh wow, I can't believe Horikoshi did this, is so lazy," or whatever, right? But this isn't the first time something like this has been done in shonen, and a lot of people will point that out, right? A lot of people who are Naruto fans, or I said that I kind of butchered it a little bit, but I was like slurring a little bit my words, not any other type of slurs, guys. But Naruto, right? People who have read Naruto, who have seen the Fourth Great Ninja War, know that this same exact sort of thing happens in there, and everybody was okay with it, right? And that's kind of like what a lot of like the people who do like the chapter are like, or don't even mind what happened, is because this is something we've seen before. This is something that is not bothersome, and it makes sense. Hey, it made sense with Naruto, right? Naruto has this move in his arsenal that you've seen him do countless of times throughout the series. Of course, he's gonna do something dumb like that towards the end, right? Towards the end to distract one of the biggest villains. But Mirio is also doing that as well, right? The only way he can distract one of the biggest villains in the series is to do something dumb, or to do something, I guess you could say, that's a little bit, sexual, right? But it's supposed to be taken as a joke. Naruto is more of like a sexual kind of thing. When that happened, because it's more like a harem of what was going on in that moment, if you guys know what I'm talking about. And for this one, it's more of like, it's supposed to try and make you laugh. It's supposed to be a dumb joke. But this is definitely something that got a lot of readers, or a lot of people who read the chapter, really upset. And I personally don't mind. I don't mind. I like it. I think it makes sense. I think it fits with Mirio's character, especially from what we've seen from him throughout the series. How he's kind of like really jokey, right? It's fitting, and it's in line with his character for him to do something like that. Even though we can see him be serious, but in a situation like this, what other choice did he have? Especially when it comes to trying to distract someone who isn't taking you seriously because of how weak you are compared to them, right? Or compared to the others around him. So that was basically the only thing he could do. It worked. And then we get the amazing reveal, the bombshell of the chapter. Deku has arrived. The Star and Stripes fighter squadron went down to the middle of the Pacific Ocean and scooped Deku. They were like, "Hey, bro, you're kind of taking too long. We're here. Get on, and we'll drop you off where you actually need to be at, because these guys are dying here." So he's finally there. He's grappling onto the poles on the side, doing some very cool, very like Spider-Man-ish type of move where he's using his black whip to sort of slingshot himself to Shigaraki. And of course, that isn't the first time we've seen him do something like that, as we have seen him do it, I believe, in the last war as well, where he does do something very similar to that. And I even think he does that in the World Heroes Mission movie. Don't quote me on that. I have to rewatch it again for like the fourth time to really see if he actually does do that. But I'm pretty sure he does do it in the war arc, at least the Paranormal Liberation war arc that's going to be in season 6. So he does the slingshot move, and then we have two amazing back-to-back chapters, pages, where Deku is just staring at him, like dead set staring at him, ready to mess this guy's whole world up for what he's done to his friends, his homeboy that he grew up with, and the heroes around him, and just like what he's done to the country of Japan, right? So he's looking at him, he's like, "Yo, I'm about to mess you up." And then Shigaraki is shocked because he's looking back. He's like, "Holy shit, like this guy literally distracted me, and now Deku's here. Like that's what it was all about. And then we see the ultimate smash go down where Deku slingshots himself towards Shigaraki and basically punches him, and then that's where the chapter ends. This chapter was amazing. I just talking about it again, I think kind of elevated my excitement for this chapter and my love for this chapter, because there was a lot of things in this chapter that I really enjoyed. Finally, Deku is here, and a lot of people have been waiting for him. A lot of people throughout every chapter that's come out, if you've been on social media, they're like, where's Deku? Where's Deku? Where's Deku? Well, now he is here. And I can't wait for the next chapter that's going to be coming out within 6 days. 6 days later, a new chapter is going to drop, and we might see the continuation of this battle, or we could be going somewhere else. You know, Horikoshi has done it before, where we kind of go somewhere else. But like I said, I was going to get into earlier. So, you know, with all the craziness that happened this chapter, Shigaraki's new form is going to play a big role in this upcoming fight. And there's going to be a lot of things that's going to happen. Because one, in the beginning of the chapter, it's kind of hinting at us what's going to happen. One, Shigaraki's going to get a new form eventually within probably the next couple chapters. And I say this because if his body adapted to just these guys alone, to just like, you know, having Erasure blocking all of his quirks where he can't heal, he's getting all of this accumulated damage, his body can't heal all of that damage, he needs to be in this new defense form that resembles his first appearance basically, and what happened back then in his past. But you know, you have this new form just created off of these guys alone, off of the, you know, his mental stress, him panicking, and just being hurt from all the damage he got from the heroes. But now Deku is here. Deku is here, and you know, his body's going to need to adapt to a one for all user. To fighting against a one for all user, because Deku, you already know Deku is about to go full on crazy. We're definitely going to see that one for all aura covering his body. We're going to definitely see that sort of one for all aura Deku that we always see in the movies, where he, you know, is just bright like green or you know, light green, just going over his body and stuff like that, or you know, a tealish blue is what kind of like it looks like sometimes, like a mesh between green and blue, right? It's very clear that that's going to happen. This is going to be a new form, a third form that we're going to get when he fights against Deku, and I do believe it's going to be a perfect balance of offense and defense. That's at least my belief, because of course he has to be very offensive with someone like a one for all user, but he also needs to be very defensive against someone like a one for all user, because Deku, since he's the ninth, there's most likely and most definitely more accumulated power stacked on top of you know, when All Might had it, and now we're going to get more of like you know, a stronger battle than what would have happened between, let's say, All for One and just Deku themselves, or even just All Might versus this now Shigaraki, right? It won't be as crazy back then like how it's going to be now, because of that extra power that Deku has accumulated with his time with One for All. So it's going to be insane. I can't wait to see his new form. But there's also something else that we cannot forget about, and that's the fact that All for One is also on his way over here. He's going to be coming to where Shigaraki's at, as he stated a couple chapters ago. He said that, hey, he's going to be on his way to let Shigaraki go. And as, you know, the beginning of this chapter stated, Erasure wasn't letting him, you know, heal up his body. So we might see something happen to Aizawa or Monoma, where Erasure is going to be effectively out of play. And that's when we're going to see not only just Shigaraki's new form, but we're going to see a bunch of new quirks being introduced to fight against Deku. Well, for Shigaraki to fight against Deku, right? And that's going to be super, super insane, because I don't think anybody right now is capable of stopping All for One. I think that is just something that needs to be stated right now, right? Endeavor did it, but that was against an All For One who has been messed up by someone like All Might, right? All the damage All For One had before that fight was against someone like All Might. And of course, Endeavor finished the job against what you can say is a weaker version of All For One. But now that All For One is essentially back in his prime, and yes, I do know that he is going to eventually fade away from existence because of the rewind that he used on his body. But right now, his last, I guess you could say, mission as he's alive is to free Shigaraki. It's to free, I guess you could say, his other self from this captivity, so that way he could just rain hell all over everybody, so that way he'll have this chance to actually succeed in his mission and, see his dreams through. And I think that is going to be kind of like the sort of, I guess, not necessarily the climax of it, but the biggest moment. I guess you could say climax, right? But it's going to be a very huge thing that's going to happen. We might see UA fall out of the sky because of All For One pulling up to free Shigaraki, and we're going to see other heroes not even being able to be there because of what they're dealing with on the battlefield. So it's going to be a very hectic couple of chapters to come, or even just many chapters to come, right? Because of what was being implied in this chapter and what we know is most likely going to happen in a future chapter with All For One pulling up and freeing Shigaraki. And I could see definitely a lot of death, a lot of destruction happening once All For One arrives to the UA Sky Fortress. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what is to come out of this whole deal, right? This whole ordeal, or this whole, battle that's going to happen. It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited for it. I know a lot of you are most likely excited for it, and it's going to be big. It's going to be a really big thing for My Hero Academia. But that's kind of like what my review or my summary and my thoughts on this chapter were. I'm going to be reading the chat soon, but this was definitely one of my favorite chapters of My Hero Academia. Deku is back. Mirio did something really funny that makes sense to the story. It isn't something that is pulled out of his ass or pulled out of Horikoshi's ass, right? Like a lot of people like to say, oh, Horikoshi is a bad writer. No, it completely does make sense on why Mirio pulled something like this out of his back pocket, because of his relationship with Sir Night-Eye, what he's dealt with Sir Night-Eye, and how those words resonated with him. Those words from Sir Night-Eye. And all of that, right? And how he sort of kind of forgot, but is now remembering and is now embracing Sir Night-Eye's words. So I really love every aspect of this chapter, and of course the things that you can sort of insinuate and theorize when it comes to Shigaraki and his second form that we just got, with, of course, it resembling his past, and how those arms or those hands are meant to sort of calm him down from the panic and stuff like that he was suffering through last chapter and getting into this chapter. So it's very interesting. I'm excited. Let's read this chat. All right, cool yet disturbing form indeed for Shigaraki as a villain. It fits him well for a lot of reasons. The story is definitely getting more interesting as it continues. Wonder how it'll end in the future. Yeah, I'm very excited to know how it's going to end. Personally, I think Bakugo and Deku might do a team up, or the way that I've always seen it going down is that Bakugo, once he wakes up, and I have a theory about this on the channel at some point, that Bakugo is going to fight All For One. When he arrives, when All For One arrives, I'm pretty sure Bakugo is going to be up at that time. And Bakugo is probably going to stop, or try and stop, or hold off All For One from opening the UA barrier and releasing this, monster, right, onto the world. So I think that's what's going to happen, and that's kind of how I've seen it. Earlier today, I actually got a comment on one of my videos, kind of discussing that, where I say that Bakugo doesn't have a main villain yet. He hasn't fought a main villain yet. He doesn't have his own villain to fight yet. and he's like, hey, it's looking like that's not even going to happen anymore because him and Bakugo are there. But now that I remembered, and now that during the stream I kind of remembered that All For One is on his way over there, so, or is going to be heading there very soon, and he is he is most likely going to be the only person that can stop All For One. So I do believe Bakugo is going to help Deku by taking on All For One, and it's going to be a lot more impactful now, because back then when I theorized it, and I even had a whole another separate video just going over why I think this was going to happen, it's going to be a lot more impactful now because All For One, or my fault, All Might struggled and took a lot of damage and was absolutely destroyed, even though he won the fight against All For One the first time and their second time, right? He was absolutely destroyed by All For One, of course, even though he won, right? And this time, All For One is back in his prime due to the rewind. So we're going to most likely see Bakugo, some guy who's already exhausted, some guy who's heavily fatigued from all of this that's going on, some guy who just came back to life, right? He is going to have to fight this prime All For One. And it's going to be insane, because even no matter how much damage Bakugo is going to do to him during that fight, All For One basically has infinite heals at that point because of rewind. Even though he's going to fade from existence, he's going to still be healing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Bakugo is going to tackle All For One. And that's a big if. This is just like a theory, right? That's if we see Bakugo waking up in time and him going off to fight All For One to hold him off. That's if. That's a big if. And of course, Deku's there, and he could definitely hold off Shigaraki if they need to open the UA barrier again. So it's a big if. That's kind of like my theory about it, like what will happen towards the end. I think once All For One makes it there, Bakugo is going to be, well on his, he's back up. He's going to fight All For One, try and hold him off, so that way Deku could finish the job with Shigaraki on however he's going to do it. And like I stated in a previous stream as well, there's a possibility that Deku could reach out to that younger Tomura Shigaraki, or not Tomura Shigaraki, that younger Tenko within Shigaraki, and sort of end things that way, or is going to have to be forced to actually end Shigaraki's life. So that's kind of how I'm starting to see it now, especially with this chapter and what has been going on. Continuing on with the chats, I really love how Shigaraki's new form looks like his first appearance in the series. Yeah, I love that about his form, and I talked about it earlier in the stream as well, but it's very resembling of what happened to him as a child, and how at the beginning of this chapter, it states that he was panicked, he was stressed and stuff like that, just kind of like how he was when All For One sort of first found him. And Shigaraki was crying, he was stressed out, he couldn't believe he did that to his family, or he couldn't believe that nobody wanted to help him out, and he was super itchy. And then All For One's way to soothe him and to calm him down was to give him the hands of his family. And then once he got those hands around him, he was a lot more at ease, the itch went away and stuff like that. And I think that's what this is supposed to be a callback to, a reference to, is that what happened back then. And that's what I think it's most likely referencing, because we see his family turn into those hands wrapping around him. So I think it's very on the nose on what it is, but of course nothing's really confirmed yet, and that's technically a theory. Mirio definitely has cake. Homie has cake. Of course I lose it. As cake as you put it in your title, that's for sure. LMAO. Hell yeah. Mirio got dummy cake. I don't care. I don't care. Like, big major pause on that. What? Ayo. But that. Yeah, he thick. He a thick boy. Mirio's character is literally being a funny, goofy, and jokey character, while also knowing when. Oh, this is TJ, but I haven't been reading the names. I'm sorry. The last one was by Rachel, and this is TJ. Mirio's character is literally being a funny, goofy, and jokey character while also knowing when to be serious in situations slash moments. I don't know why people are mad at this, saying this ruined him, when it's literally a part of his character personality that we were introduced to. Yes, that's kind of what I'm not understanding about, like, why everybody's kind of like up in arms about this chapter either. It's already been shown to us, right? It's already been shown to us that Mirio is like this. Mirio is a jokey person. Yes, he can get serious at times, but when he has nothing left in his arsenal to distract a villain that he needs to distract, that doesn't even want to pay him no mind, this is something that he needed to whip out his from his ass, basically. And that's what he did. Of course, Sir Night-Eye played a big role in that, where he remembered Sir Night-Eye's words, and how it resonated with him in that moment, and how it led to him, doing the full moon. So I really like that about this chapter. I really like that about Mirio. I really like that Horikoshi is still in line with his character. He's not changing anything. He hasn't changed anything. Instead, he sort of, it felt like he kind of elevated his character in not only just like a funny way, but like in a very important way, where, even though he's a hero, he needed to do something goofy to save the day. He essentially saved the day, or saved some lives. He saved Best Genius and possibly even Bakugo's life, even though Bakugo's, on the ground dead already, right? So, he did that to save these guys, to distract him, to give them time for our heroes to open up the barrier. So, it's interesting, right? I really like how this was great for his character, and it didn't ruin him, in my opinion. Let's see, going on with Rachel. People need to leave Mirio be on that. Besides that, he's a fictional character with the ability to phase through into solid things, but clothes can't when he activates it due to it being his own solid item. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I had a little bit of a stroke reading that, but it's all right. I definitely understood what you were trying to say. Yeah, I like that about his character. He's always just been jokey from the start with his ability, him being able to phase through his own clothes, and how, at least with his costume, he isn't, right. So I definitely understand, and yeah, that's big ups for Mirio. All right, TJ. Plus, Mirio's strength is not that of a normal human being, and his quirk makes him untouchable. He can easily take down people like Overhaul, but Shigaraki, or Shig for one, he can only be able to distract him. I don't know what people expected Mirio to do. Yeah, me either. Mirio, when it comes to like power scaling, when it comes to how strong Mirio is, he is nothing compared to, the other characters around him in terms of strength, and someone like All for One or Shigaraki, right? He's not gonna do much to Shigaraki. He's strong in his own ways. He's powerful in his own ways, but he's not powerful against someone who's looked at as All Might level, who's looked at as someone who is stronger than All Might, even in his prime. So, it's very telling. So back to Rachel. The war arc in My Hero Academia is definitely intense, intriguing, informative, in the manga version especially, and so on. I want to eventually get all the My Hero Academia manga books whenever I can. Yes, telling you, I tell a lot of people all the time, the manga gives you so much extra, bits of information in between pages or in between chapters. The extra pages that are I'm having a stroke that are in the books or in the manga, they're filled with extra information or just extra art and stuff like that. But typically we get a lot of good information, good extra bits of information on the world, on characters, and all of that. The manga is definitely the way to go, especially if you are super invested in the series and want to know more about it. know more about the characters and the world, the manga is definitely the way to go. Because the anime, even though the anime is really good, and well, some may have differing opinions on that, right? But even though the anime is telling the story, it's not giving you all of that extra information that you find in between those pages. So, you know, definitely the manga is the way to go to learn more about everybody or about the world and stuff like that. Back to TJ. And on top of that, Mirio doing that also brings back Serenada's ideals in full circle. I see it as Mirio using humor to distract Tomura in order for Deku to show up and deliver a bright future. Definitely, definitely. That's a really good way of looking at it, and I do that's actually a really good way of looking at it. He's delivering the humor. He made Shigaraki smile, and then you have Deku, the bright future, the person who's going to bring the bright future or make the future bright again, shows up. I like that. I like the way you saw that. Good stuff, TJ. Speaking of Deku, did you see that entrance he made? Man, that was crazy. I, for one, love this chapter. Can't wait for the next one. Same. Yo, that entrance, that slingshot entrance, that looking at each other with the death stare entrance was so badass. It's definitely one of Deku's most badass moments, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot more of that, specifically during this huge fight that's about to begin, or that's about to start, or has already started. It's in its beginning phases, but this big fight that's going to happen. So we're going to see a lot more of badass Deku, and I'm hoping we're going to see a crazy Deku form that we've been getting hints about throughout like movies and just other arcs in general, especially the overhaul arc where we get that 100% Deku. I'm hoping we see that go down, and I'm pretty sure we will, just because this is the final battle and we need to see Deku get his ultimate final form, basically his mastered one for all form. So that's going to be exciting. Rachel, Deku and Bakugo teaming up would be so awesome to see again. Definitely agree with you on the whole impact it'll have. Yeah, I can't. The team up in Heroes Rising was amazing, just because of how different it was, right, and how unexpected it was with Deku giving Bakugo one for all. But this team up is definitely going to hit very different with, just because Deku's not giving him one for all this time. And, well, we can assume that because that's kind of like what Horikoshi has said, right? It was the Heroes Rising ending, him giving Bakugo one for all, was an idea he had for the original ending of the series. And since he used that ending, we're most likely not going to see that ending or that tag team of Deku giving Bakugo one for all and sorry, and fighting the final villain. We're not going to see that anymore. We're getting a completely different ending than for what we got in Heroes Rising. That idea has been used up, and so we're going to see something very different, and I'm very excited for it, especially for what this new Bakugo and Deku team up is going to look like. So very exciting. Back to TJ, I really think Bakugo and Deku should definitely team up against Shiggy in a way. This will make what All Might says come full circle. Oh, I can't read right now. Come full circle about the both of them becoming the greatest heroes by working together. That's definitely a good way to see it, and how like All Might had also said that you have to win and save and win, and how both of them are both of those, except one, Deku, I believe, is the save to win, and Bakugo is the win to save, right? And they're probably going to need to combine that, work together with both of their like sort of different ideals and going about things, and them being like the yin and yang, basically, right? It's going to be the ultimate way to sort of end this whole thing. Them working together, them cooperating, them finally doing what All Might has sought out for them to do is going to be in this moment. It's going to need to be done in this moment. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that save and win to save, both of those philosophies and ideals sort of clash together in this final moment. And I can't wait to see it, because obviously Bakugo has had that sort of change in ideals, or that mind change especially like a couple arcs ago, where he went to go rescue Deku, and he's like, "Yo, I was wrong. You have to save and win in order to win and save." So it's going to be interesting to see how Bakugo and Deku go about it this time. And of course I do believe Deku's going to be very worried about Bakugo, because it's like, bro, you weren't you just dead? It's like, well, don't worry about that now, you idiot. Like, can't you see we got to fight this dude? Like, that's how I could definitely see it going down. So I'm very excited. Back to Rachel. It's just a theory, a film theory. Thanks for watching. Just wanted to send that as a joke. LOL. I know it's silly, but I hope it somewhat made you smile at least. Yes, it definitely did. I understood it completely. Love Matt Pat. His theories are sometimes a little bit ridiculous, but they're fun, right? Yeah, definitely like the little reference right there. TJ. Plus, it seems like every character has a nemesis. Shoto and Dabi, Endeavor and All for One, Shoji and Spinner, Kirishima and Mina versus Midnight's Killer, and so on. I would love it if Shigaraki was both Deku and Bakugo's main villains, especially since they're both connected to Shigi in some way. But Deku should definitely have more of an impact since he's the main character. I do have a theory on that, and I did say in one of my theory videos discussing this exact topic. Bakugo's main villain is going to be All for One, and like how I was talking about earlier. And if you want, you could watch the video again. I go very in detail on why I believe that, and how All for One and Bakugo are a lot more connected than, let's say, how he is with a bunch of, or any other villains that we've ever seen, right? Because of just how All for One has slowly been destroying, has been messing with Bakugo's life. So that, I'm not going to say more on that, because I did talk about it earlier, and I also do have a video going very more in depth than how I was in this stream. But yeah, I definitely think a team up would be cool to see, like them versus Shigaraki for a little bit. Then once All for One comes, then Bakugo's like, Deku, you need to handle this by yourself. I have to go over there and fight this guy. So that's how I could see it going down. Just a little bit of a tease of a team up, of an amazing team up, and then they separate and go their separate ways. And then by the end of the series, we'll get a Bakugo versus Deku Part 3. That's the dream, boys. That's the dream. I need to see that. I need to see them going all out against each other. Which, knowing Shonen, we probably might not even see that, even if we get there. So, let's see. Back to Rachel. Mirio's the best, lol. Most of these characters are in their own way. My bad on some of my replies. I'm trying to type semi-fast while having a limited text box count, lol. That's perfectly fine. I still understood what you were saying earlier and stuff like that. It's perfectly fine. I'm just messing around and stuff. So, yeah, don't take me seriously either. I'm basically a Mirio. Back to TJ. Plus, it seems Deku and Bakugo are the only ones who can do anything to Shigi. That's definitely a fact. Like, that's a fact. Those are the only two characters that can really do anything. Everybody was struggling, and the one person that Shigaraki felt any sort of like fear towards, against, that wasn't a one-for-all user, was Bakugo. Bakugo was the only person in that hero lineup that made him go shiver me timbers, right? That was the only time. And so Bakugo is definitely, that's why I feel like Bakugo will also be a good candidate to fight against All for One whenever he shows up. Back to Rachel. About Shigi's different forms, if you really wanted to, you can easily see metaphorically how he's trying so hard to hold on to himself in some way and to keep himself together in a strange comfort way. Definitely. Another thing about Shigi's forms, you could also see it the other way, as in his own self-destruction, as if he was tearing himself apart, again, metaphorically speaking. Yeah, I could definitely see that, and that's why earlier I stated that form is supposed to be, even though it's defensive, it's a defensive form. It's, it's coddling him. It's making him safe. That's why the arms are around him, and that's why that's why in the beginning of the chapter, it's like, he's stressed, he's panicked, and his new form, his body adapted into this new form in that moment, right? Specifically, and that's what the chapter says as well, specifically in this moment is when his body changed to that form because of everything that was going on, not only in his head but physically on his body. So it was basically a very big callback to when he was just like that back when he was a kid, and how those hands, the way the hands wrapped around his body now in this chapter, are basically placed in the same exact spots where the hands of his family had wrapped around his body back then. So it's supposed to calm him down but also protect him. So that's what I really like about his form. And yes, you are definitely on the money when it comes to, it being such a big metaphor to what's going on. And it's also a very big callback to what had happened to him in the past. So definitely on the money with that one. TJ. Back to TJ. I'm going to read TJ's two last chats, and if another one pops up, I'll read it as well. But I'm going to end the stream. This is just solely focused on the chapter 366 and answering some questions and also just chatting with you guys. It's been fun and stuff like that, but let's get on to these last couple chats, and then I'm going to end the stream for the day. This is kind of a later stream than usual, but I already explained that in the beginning. TJ, you know what? That's actually smart. Having Bakugo take on all for one as he heads over to Shigi while Deku handles Shigaraki. But now that Deku has shown up, I think Mirio will get the injured out of there. Definitely. I believe Mirio. I think that's what kind of Mirio's job was. I forgot what chapter it was, but when Mirio shows up to fight, and I believe it was just a couple chapters ago, right? When Mirio shows up to fight with everyone, with Nejiri, with Sun Eater, with everyone that's at the UA Fortress, when he shows up, he states that he was going around helping people in different battle zones. So that's what he's most likely going to do here. Once Deku really starts going at it, he's probably going to get Mirio. He's probably going to get Mirko. He's going to get Nejiri, then Sun Eater, and then obviously escort them through probably a tunnel underneath, right? Where they can get to where Momo and then them are at, and probably Momo can provide some supplies that will help, not take away blood, but stop the bleeding, on certain characters, especially a character like Mirko that is kind of like a nugget right now, right? She has no body parts, basically. She has no body parts. But yeah, I believe that's definitely a good thing you said that, because I do believe that is going to happen. Mirio is probably going to be the guy who is like, I'm on medic duty. I'm going to need to help these guys and escort them out of here, because it's going to get crazier now and everybody can't do anything against this dude. And we're probably all going to be, a hindrance on Deku when it comes to him, because he's the only person that could really do anything. So I can't wait to see what Mirio is actually going to do after this, because he's basically the only character in that battle zone, or in at the UA Sky Fortress, that can do anything. That can do anything, because everybody's knocked out or on death's door. So yeah, I definitely could see him on medic duty, kind of like how you said, where he's escorting everybody out. TJ again. Now here comes the possibility, heartbreaking question. Do you think Mirko is dead after that massive hit she took from Shigaraki? Ooh. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of looked like she was done for, right? When you see her plastered on the tree, and plastered, I guess isn't the right word, but when she's like dangling on the tree, like she's like that kind of like, right? When you see her like that on the tree, when Mirio's looking at her, it kind of looks like she's kind of done, right? But this is Mirko we're talking about, and she could just be heavily like just dying. Like she's just dying. She's just out of it. She can't do no more. She can't move. Right? All the adrenaline was probably just, it ended right there, because all of the blood loss going on. She's definitely most likely going to die, but we don't know, right? We don't know. I'm not sure about it. I think she might be done for within like the next couple chapters, but hopefully And even though this will take away tension, this will take away some stakes, I do kind of want to see Mirko live, or at least live long enough to see that they won, right? It would I do think it would be cool that even though they don't kill her right away, she would live long enough till the end of the war to see that Deku won, to see that everybody won, because obviously we know they're gonna win, right? Because this is shonen, this is a superhero book, and well, superhero manga, and Deku does say that we become the greatest heroes, right? So we do know that they're gonna win. We don't know how, but I would love to see Mirko like smiling and then dying peacefully, right? Dying peacefully, knowing that they won, that they succeeded, they ended All for One. They ended Shigaraki and their possible reign or their reign on the world. So I do think that would be an interesting way to keep, to not to well to kill off a character, right? To keep them alive long enough to where they're satisfied with it and they can let go. They can leave peacefully. So I think that is definitely what I hope happens with Mirko. That's Jesus. That's what I thought was going to happen with Gran Torino back when something like that happened. Something similar like that happened to him back during the Paranormal Liberation War arc. But they didn't do that, right? He's still alive as of right now. And I'm hoping they might just do that with Mirko. And I know a bunch of people are going to get pissed at Horikoshi because they're going if he does that. That's if he does that, right? Because they're gonna have a I guess you could say a bitch fit that not only did Stars and Stripes get murked, not only did Nagant get blown up, but it's still alive. She's still alive. Not only did Nagant blow up as well, but Mirko has bit the bullet. And people are going to get pissed off at that, and they're probably going to say a bunch of rude, mean, and just childish things about Horikoshi and about how he's this, that, and the third. Which I know when that happens, I'm going to get pissed off about it. I'm going to be like, bro, don't even read the manga at that point. Like, if you really think he's like that, then don't read, right? Even though, yes, he can be a little bit of like a perv and shit like that, and he's basically kind of admitted it. That he but we all have a perv inside of us. I get a little freaky sometimes. Horikoshi, definitely a freak. so I mean, have you seen Mirio's cheeks this chapter? That homie is a freak. But jokes aside, that's nothing that bothers me. It bothers me when people sort of get offended for no reason because of that. But still, I do kind of hope that that's how Mirko ends up going. But that's just me, right? I guess I'll just read these last couple ones. Rachel, I like how me and TJ are chatting on our live stream, on your live stream chat room, but nonetheless, I enjoyed the time watching and interacting, and hope we all had fun here. Yeah, it was definitely fun. I don't really care how many people are watching. I just love interacting with whoever's here and stuff like that, and I love seeing that you guys, guy and girl or whatever you want to be, right? I'm just glad to see that everybody's like, whoever's here is talking with each other, is theorizing together, is having a good normal conversation, and we're all just enjoying My Hero Academia and the chapter together, right? That's basically what I really love and care about, and I'm glad to see that happening. Even if it's just like two people, it doesn't matter to me, and it'd be like that. I hope everyone's having a good day and night as well. Same. TJ, I also forgot to mention Uraraka and Toga's rivalry, and I forgot she had twice as blood. Yes, that's going to play a very big role. I can't wait to see what happens with that as well. That's going to be very exciting times because there's going to be a lot of bombshells dropped, or not really a bombshell, but some revelations and stuff like that when it comes to Toga and how she feels about Twice's death, and how Ochako sort of misunderstood what she was trying to tell her back during the war arc, and how she sort of kind of fumbled the bag with that, how she really hurt Toga's feelings, and that's going to be its own separate thing, and I can't wait to see that, because I did feel like the fight in the Paranormal Liberation War arc was very garbage. It was cool in a sense that these two characters are going at it. For Toga, it's a very like personal reason, but it wasn't the fight I was expecting back then, and I'm hoping we get a bigger, crazier fight between these two characters, these two female characters, and it Horikoshi just goes off. Uh, I'm hoping we see that. I'm hoping it's going to be better than the Paranormal Liberation War Arc one, but we'll just see. We'll have to see. I can't wait to see what goes down with Twice's blood and stuff like that, because there's a lot of things that's going to be happening that is going to be big. It's going to be big, especially with Dabi now using Todoroki's move instead of like copying his father. He's copying Todoroki now, so it's going to be interesting to see where that's going to lead as well, because Endeavor, well, not Endeavor, Dabi is going to be going to Endeavor. Everybody's switching places now, right? Endeavor was fighting All For One. All For One's gonna say goodbye and go to Shigaraki. Then we have Dabi over here that's trying to say bye to Todoroki. He's like, you know what? I don't got time for this, right? I gotta go to the guy that I really want to mess up right now and really want to make suffer, which is Endeavor. So he asked I always forget the guy's name, Skeptic. He asked Skeptic, he's like, bro. And then Skeptic's like, bro, he's over there. And he's like, thanks, bro. So he's like, he's going to go to Endeavor, and we're going to see what happens with that. That's going to be another interesting fight. One of the fights that I'm very excited for, honestly. Because, as you guys know, Dabi's my profile picture. Dabi fused with All Might, right? I always thought that was funny. That's my favorite character. And I can't wait to see, and especially just the Todorokis in general. They're my favorite family in manga, in shonen, in comics in general, right? That's my favorite family. I love the drama. I love everything that goes on with Todorokis and everything that surrounds the Todorokis. So I can't wait to see how Endeavor is going to react, how Dabi is going to react, and what is going to happen between them. Is Dabi and Endeavor going to go out in a big ball of fire, of flame, glory, death, and sadness, or are they going to have a heart-to-heart? Right? Are they going to have a heart-to-heart? Is Dabi going to get his way? Is he going to see Endeavor suffer? Or is Endeavor's words, his actions going to reach out to Dabi and give us a very impactful and emotional moment? That's what I'm waiting for when it comes to them. And that's one of the, like, my most, what's the word? The one fight I'm looking forward to the most, right? The most anticipated fight. That's what it was. That's my most anticipated fight in this war arc right now. So I'm excited for that. I also forgot. All right, Rachel, love joining the live streams and will try to join in more in the future. Definitely, LOL. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, man. Well, gal, thanks for stopping by. It's always a pleasure seeing people join in and just talking about it. It's always fun. Oh my god, that's actually a perfect death for her character. Yeah, that's how I see Mirko kind of going out, if that's what we were talking about. But then Rachel, plus these types of streams are quite relaxing to talk in and so on, etc. I understand why people would get upset when a character you enjoy gets harmed in any sort of way, but in the case of My Hero Academia, it's literally the war arc. War is war. That's exactly how I've been seeing it a lot. Like, this is a big war going on. Of course, characters are going to get hurt. Of course, characters are going to lose certain body parts or limbs and or even die, right? It's going to be big. That's what the stakes are. And that's how it should be. TJ, I would love to see Deku. This is the last one I'm reading, and then I'm out. I would love to see Deku fighting Shiggy and All For One showing up. I can't read right now. Showing up, charging Deku and Bakugo, hits All For One with a massive blast and says, "You're not laying a rotten finger on the damn nerd." With Deku shocked. That would be an amazing entrance, even though he's already there. It would be an amazing re-entrance for that character. That sounds awesome. Since I want to continue commenting and replying. This is Rachel. Since I'm enjoying the conversations we all are having, but it'll end here with this last one for today. Thank you for reading our comments. Appreciate it. I very appreciative of everything. I'm glad that you have been enjoying the stream and us all talking. It's so fun. I love it. But yeah, that was my last. That was the last ones I'm reading for the chat. I'm going to end the stream here. This was an amazing chapter. I'm glad to hear a lot of your inputs. I'm glad to see that a lot of other people enjoyed it as well. I know a lot of I guess you could say some of fellow YouTubers and stuff like that kind of love and hate it, or just don't like it, or just or have been just on a raid of just straight up bashing My Hero Academia for, I guess, some certain chapters and things that they might not understand themselves, or some things that they mistook, or whatever, right? Or just jumping to conclusions. It's the biggest final thing that's happening in My Hero Academia. So there's going to be a lot of people's anticipations or theories that are going to be crushed, or that are they're not going to see what they want to see, or they wish things would have went down slightly differently than what had happened in this war arc. And that's very understandable. And I'm hoping that once this war arc is over, people will sort of look back at the series as a whole and sort of realize how good this war arc actually is. And I'm not saying like this is the best arc in My Hero Academia. I do think that still belongs to the Paranormal Liberation War arc. But this arc isn't over yet. There's still a bunch of things we haven't seen yet, and there's still time for Horikoshi to correct whatever wrongs a lot of people felt that this arc has been delivering within like these next couple chapters, or plenty of chapters down the line. So yeah, that's basically all I gotta say for it. Been loving it so far. Love this chapter. Thanks for stopping by. Bye TJ. Bye Rachel. Bye everybody. It's been fun. I've loved doing these streams, and thank you all once again for stopping by for this My Hero Academia chapter 366 live discussion / review. So thank you guys, and I'm heading out. Peace out.